Hey guys, what is going on? My name is Thomas Spark. Welcome back to another video. Today we're making a 2FA tier list, which is the best 2FA application to use in 2025. Now keep in mind guys, there are a lot of password managers nowadays that actually use passkeys, and in some ways it makes 2FA irrelevant. The only problem is not every website supports passkeys, so you still need 2FA kind of in conjunction with passkeys. So that's just kind of a little forward there by me. Additionally, I do recommend using password managers that support passkeys. My preferred one is Bitwarden. So if you haven't checked out Bitwarden, go ahead and check that out. Not sponsored by Bitwarden, not sponsored by any of the mentions in this video. But if you guys do want to help support the channel, even though I don't usually take sponsorships, you might want to check out some of my top rated products that are affiliates of mine as well. You could check out some of those in the description down below. I also have my website, vpntierlist.com, where I actually list out my top rated products on the top, and you get some really good discounts on all these links with some free months, 50% off discount codes and stuff like that. I have my top email provider, my top data broker removal tool, top VPN, and top streaming sharing services as well, with links there on vpntierlist.com. So make sure to check that out if you like privacy products and discounts on them as well, and you want to help support honest videos just like this one. All right, guys, now with that in mind, let's get into this tier list. So guys, I'm going to be ranking it by S tier, which is the best of the best, and so forth. So let's go ahead and start off with something interesting. This is called Yubikey. Now, Yubikey is actually kind of like a hardware 2FA. So I do think that is pretty cool. The problem with Yubikey, though, in my experience, is a lot of websites don't really work very well with it. It can be kind of buggy. Technically, it's like the most secure, I would say, out of these options, since it's just like a very in-person way to authenticate, and no one else can really spoof that. But like I said, in my experience, it does present issues, and you can't get it working with a lot of websites. And also you have to pay for it, which is another pretty big con. So in that sense, I'm going to rate it B tier because it does have some huge advantages like that security, but usability and price is definitely a con for Yubikey. There probably are some people out there that are triggered by that right now because it is one of the best ways, I would say. But again, just to be fair, considering some of the downsides and stuff like that, that it's also one of those things where, you know, it's kind of, if you're trying to get your friend or family member to start using 2FA or something like that, definitely a little bit more of a power user kind of situation there. So next up, we have something like LastPass. Now, LastPass is an authentication service, 2FA kind of authentication service, and they also have a password manager that probably does support passkeys nowadays. However, I don't really like LastPass. As a company, they've had way too many leaks, way too many issues with leaks, too many security issues. So I'm not currently going to recommend their 2FA service either. And for that reason, I'm going to put them probably in D tier, just because they've had too many security issues in the past, which you could easily find all over Google. In fact, Google's Gemini summarizes it very well. They've had multiple data breaches in 2022. Hackers gain access to third-party cloud services. There's a lot of different instances. I guess in 2024, they became left its parent company, became independent. So at least there's that. But again, there's been multiple data breaches with LastPass, which makes it not as recommendable for me. So guys, with that in mind, let's get into the next one. We could talk about Microsoft. Now, Microsoft is not necessarily privacy friendly, but in a lot of ways, 2FA isn't about privacy. It's more about security. And I would say Microsoft security is overall decent, but in a lot of ways, this doesn't really feel like a product they spend too much time on. If you do look at its authentication application, it does kind of look pretty simple and not really too much. I mean, you don't really need it to be that complicated. You know, it is updated fairly often too. So I would say the security is probably better than something like LastPass. But that said, you know, does it do anything? Is it open source? No. Is it that good in terms of privacy? Not necessarily. Security is probably fine. It's a big company and stuff like that. And it's probably more of a business kind of approach they probably have with their marketing for there. So I would say it's decent in terms of security, but again, in terms of privacy, it's not really my favorite option since it's not open source and not as reputable in terms of the privacy space. So that's why I would give it a C tier. So there you go. Next up, we have Google 2FA, and I'm going to rank it pretty much the same as Microsoft. Google and Microsoft are pretty good when it comes to security, but when it comes to privacy, not too good. Since this is a list that does take a look at privacy and security, not just one or the other, Google, of course, is selling all your data and stuff like that with its products, even though you can use them for free, but generally not as good overall for privacy. It's not as respected in the privacy community. So guys, what are some of the best ones? Well, here's Authy. I don't think Authy is good anymore. I think it's going to be right alongside LastPass. There's been several issues with Authy. I think they recently actually disabled their PC application. There's also been several leaks, just like LastPass. The nice thing about Authy was it was super easy to migrate between devices since it was kind of linked to your phone number. But again, you might be thinking that sounds convenient, but also a little insecure, and you would be right. There's some fail proofs in there, like setting up a key code. So if someone did kind of SIM jack you using, you still need your specific code. So at least there's that. But it's, I would say it's still not as good just because of the last issues and stuff like that. So yeah, I would give it probably D tier, maybe a little bit better than LastPass, but still. So next up, we have some of these really good options here. Now we have something like Ente 2FA, which is a fairly new offering, and they also have a pretty robust photo thing, which are kind of more known for that kind of photo storage. But the Ente 2FA is also really well respected in the privacy and security community. So you can see it has really good ratings. My only cons with Ente 2FA is it's just too simple. If you look at it right here, it's just incredibly plain and kind of the GUI isn't really that anything special. That's not a huge complaint, but I think it is something worth kind of differentiating other products from. For that reason alone, I'd give it A tier. I do think the privacy, security, and stuff like that is very good, but the user interface and a kind of experience I do think is lacking. But that's not really a huge deal. Next up, we have something called EDS 2FA. Now, I think this one is pretty good. I just don't like how it's only on Android. It's not available on iOS. I actually do think this one has a better interface than Ente. As you can see here, it looks quite nice. But it's only available on Android, which is very annoying. I don't understand why they would not put it on iOS. It just seems to something that they should have done. I don't know why. But for those reasons, I can't give it S tier because it's just not available on iOS. A lot of people use iPhones, believe it or not. So there you go. So guys, lastly is going to be Bitwarden. Now you might be saying, Tom, what the hell? Bitwarden is a password manager, not a 2FA application. And you would be right in one way, because Bitwarden also does have an authenticator on the App Store as well. And now it's very similar to Authy. I mean, not Authy, but Ente. The appearance, I think, is a little bit better. I do like Bitwarden as a company. I think it's a little more reputable in terms of how popular it is and its track record over the years compared to something like Ente, which is a little bit newer. But I do think Bitwarden is very good to check out when it comes to password manager. I think it's available on iOS and Android, so there's that. Interface is a little bit better than Ente, not a ton, but just a slightly better. I would actually say I like Aegis's interface the best out of these three options, but again, it's only available on Android. So I do think Bitwarden is a combination of best things: a good interface, a reputable company, open source, privacy oriented. You can also use Bitwarden's 2FA to use passkeys. So kind of having that same ecosystem familiarity is kind of cool. I don't think there's any security issues using both. So overall, those are my final thoughts on the best password 2FA there are. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. What is your favorite one to use? Would you rate these two higher than Bitwarden or Bitwarden lower? Do you agree with some of these placements? Let me know down in the comments down below, and I'll see you again very soon. But if you guys like this tier list, make sure to check out some of my favorite products like I mentioned in the beginning of the video. I'll be putting links in the description down below that will enhance your privacy, other privacy products, really good discounts, and on my website, of course. And I'll see you again very soon.